Now on the APEC VIP hotline, cutting-edge training for the serious athlete, apecgo.com. Joining us now, the author of the Big Mac blog for the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, also a contributor to DFWOT, the e-magazine for the iPad. Mac Engel, how you doing, sir?
I'm good, Bryan. How are you this afternoon?
Doing well, doing very well. Where do you want to start? You want to start with Pa Hall, or you want to start with the obituary to the Texas Rangers?
I think probably the obit on the Rangers, which I hate to say that in hindsight we could probably say, how did we not see it coming? But it still feels like a tremendous shock.
I was absolutely amazed at the way they faded to black in the last 2 weeks and then went out so meekly on Friday night in the playoff game against Baltimore.
Yeah, I think it was just a momentum swing. You just didn't expect it from a team that really was really good. I mean, I don't think you win 93 games, 94 games, however many it was, because you can't fake your way through regular season baseball success. The season's too long. In football, you can squeak out 10 wins with a whole litany of or a whole line of lucky ends. But in baseball, you're not winning that many games because you were anything other than really good. And the Rangers were really good, and they could not have picked a worse time to just have a slump. And it goes to show you how increasingly meaningless really the first 2 months of the regular season are. And the guy who gets that better than anybody is the guy out in Oakland. I mean, he basically treats Billy Beane and the A's basically continue to treat the first 2 months of the regular season as a tune-up. That there is enough time that if you're just okay, that there's enough time to get things tweaked and get things right to really make your push. And that's what the A's did, and as a result, the Rangers fell apart. And I think the thing that was so surprising is that they just looked worn down. And rather than go with some of the younger guys, and I'm not even necessarily talking about Dirksen Profar, although he was an intriguing candidate. Ron Washington just leaned on his veterans so much. I wondered if any of those guys just flat ran out of gas.
You know, one of our callers on Friday said, we didn't see a lot of the antlers throughout the year. We didn't see the guys having fun. It looked like they were choking the sawdust out of the bat by the end of the year. Just the pressure of the whole thing seemed to get to this team, which is shocking when you think about the fact that they'd gone to 2 straight World Series. Do you agree with that?
I think there's something to be said for the idea of a team playing that many games. I think that is one of the real problems, that you look at a team as good as the Rangers are, and let's not make any. They were good, but there does come a point when you have played more innings than your opponent. And it's one of the areas that you look at. It's so commendable about the great Chicago Bulls teams did, or even those Buffalo Bills teams that went to 4 straight Super Bowls. They were playing an extra month. And think about how early baseball starts. They were playing an extra month more than anybody else, and they were doing it routine, and they did it 2 consecutive seasons. And that's why you don't see teams go to 3 straight World Series. It's really, really hard. I think it's one of the reasons why the Mavericks knocked out the Lakers and swept them in 4 games a couple of years ago. The Lakers had just finally caught up to the Lakers having played so many games. And I do think there is something to be said for the fact that the Rangers had played so many games. And I think you're right about that. I think the pressure of the whole thing, if it didn't consciously, it certainly looks like subconsciously it got up to him. And the other thing, too, is that rotation just worn down. I mean, Derek Holland wasn't very good. Ryan Dempster is a nice number 3 guy. They traded for him to be, a significant upgrade, and he was over Roy Oswalt. Yu Darvish is going to be, if he isn't already, really good. But the rotation and the staff just flat out wore down, whereas the A's seem to hit their stride and hit their peak, and that's why they are where they are right now in the division series, even though they are down 0-2.
Okay, and we haven't even begun to talk about the elephant in the room, and that's Josh Hamilton. I can't remember a guy, Bryan, and we talked about him last week. I can't remember a guy who produced for this team in this town the way he has for 5 seasons, an AL MVP, a playoff MVP, an American League, Championship Series MVP, an All-Star, an absolute icon, monster numbers, and it's as if the Rangers and now the team and now the town are saying, get out. I cannot remember a guy that's ever done anything like this. It's the most bizarre thing I've ever seen since I moved here in '96. I've seen all these guys come and go. I just can't remember a guy who did this much in a resounding
cheer from the crowd is boo. You know he's not coming back. You know he's not coming back. I don't even know if he wants to come back. But certainly from a public relations standpoint, he made more than his share of boo-boos. But I just can't remember a time when a town turned on a guy like this.
Justified?
I was thinking long and hard about that. I remember I had a hockey player one time who told me when I just started out as a beat writer, and he said, "You can write we're bad. The coach says we're bad." Basically, this guy's point was, "Don't say we didn't try. You can't go there. You don't know." And I took that to heart. And I know right now people are questioning whether or not Josh Hamilton was trying because of the way he looked like after he dropped that ball in Oakland, that he wasn't trying. That's a hell of a thing to accuse somebody that they're tanking it, that they don't care. I'm not going to go there because I simply don't know. And the numbers suggest that if he's not trying, then statistically, I'll take that kind of not trying every day of the week. I just think the drama finally got up to everybody. The too much Red Bull and, I was dipping, or there was always something. And everybody just got tired of it. And part of the problem is when you have a situation like that, you have a guy who's under a tremendous amount of scrutiny. So anytime there's going to be something, there's going to be something. It's always going to be. There was always a reason, and no one liked the reason. And I understand that. I certainly understand that because everybody's like, well, who cares? Just produce. And he did. But people were just tired of hearing the drama, and some of that's just the circumstance. And wherever he goes to next, whether it's Colorado, Chicago, New York, he's not going to go to New York, Boston, or the Dodgers, this is going to follow him. The question is, can he tone down the degree of it?
Do you think he lost the ball club?
I think people were tired of it. He's a likable guy, Bryan. He really is. He's a weird guy. He's not your normal, average everyday cat, but he's a likable enough guy. And he's a ball player. I mean, he is a ball player. He's a guy who went to high school, was a phenomenal athlete, graduated high school, and went straight to playing professional baseball. So, I mean, you're not talking about a guy who spent all of his time in the library or hanging out and had a really diverse palette of interests. You're talking about a ball player. Mm-hmm. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. There's hundreds of guys who've been like that and have done that and been successful in any number of capacities. But with Josh, I just think there was always a question about Josh. And the teams I have been on, they have a personality like that. It eventually does wear on the other guys. They're just tired of it. And I don't think they dislike Josh. He is painfully candid, which sometimes serves to his detriment. But I do think when I've been around teams like that have that kind of guy, they eventually just get tired of it. And so I don't know if he lost the team necessarily. I think they just got tired of it.
So do you think he could come back with this ball club?
I think Nolan. You and I talked about this last week. I wrote about it. I think Nolan Ryan could sell it if they get a favorable deal, and I don't know if they will. Randy Galloway talked to a Rangers executive, and they said Josh is not coming back even if he wants to. So
wow.
Yeah. So even if he wants to, let's just say that these things change. But let's say there is a change of heart and Josh comes back. I would believe that Nolan Ryan can spin it. That he would say we believe in him in his classic understated way, that he could sell it and the fans would buy it. I don't think he's coming back though.
Okay. All right, let's go to the TCU thing because we talked about this back before the season started with Casey Pahal, and then he gets arrested for DWI, and then he's indefinitely suspended. We still don't know what that means. We just know that he didn't play in the Iowa State game. What's Gary Patterson going to do with this kid? Well,
on Wednesday when he got the DWI, they found out, obviously first thing Thursday morning, about 1 o'clock in the morning on Thursday. The initial reaction, they were mad. I mean, obviously everybody's mad. Everybody's mad. Like, come on. And that's why they left him in the Mansfield jail for as long as they did. I think there was a lesson going on there. I think as a parent, and you're a parent, I'm a parent, there's millions of parents who struggle with this all the time. You cannot not try, right? You can't. You can never wash your hands of a kid. You can. You get frustrated, you get mad, but you don't not try. I do believe his parents are trying. I believe Gary is trying. Gary's motivations are different, but at some point, Gary, as the head football coach, can't stop the entire program for one kid. He can't. Eventually, he's got to move on. And the question I think that TCU is having is, do we move on? I wouldn't be. His initial reaction was, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to suspend him indefinitely. We're going to put him in uniform, and he's going to sit on the sideline. And I have to tell you, I kind of like that. As a parent, I thought, that's a pretty good one. That's a good one. You're like, okay, we're going to go to the birthday party. You're going to get dressed up. You're going to bring a present. You're going to give your friend your present, and then you're going to go in the bedroom and you're going to stand at the window and look as your friends outside are hitting the piñata, or eating chocolate cake, and rolling around on bicycles.
You are hardcore, buddy.
But I think every parent can relate to that.
Absolutely.
Kind of
no, I think it's great.
And it stinks as a kid when that happens to you, but you remember it. You remember that one. You don't want to sit outside and watch all your friends play while you can't. And that was the last thing that Gary had not done. Was he had not taken the game away from Casey yet. And it was one of the things back in early August when I got roasted for saying Gary should have suspended him for 4 games, which was too many. But I thought they should have suspended him then for the idea of take the game away from him. TCU could have still won those 2 games without Casey. Now they're in the heart of the Big 12 schedule. They're not going to win without him. They'll be competitive, but they're not going to win without him. So Gary said after the game on Saturday, which I went to, I covered, and he said he was going to make a decision on Sunday. Well, they met with the chancellor. Now they're going to make the decision on Tuesday. I would be surprised if the decision hasn't been made already. I know this. An athletic department official at TCU told me that they are getting a lot of pressure to keep him suspended. I would not be surprised if they do a Honey Badger type of deal, which is they suspend him for the year, and if he wants to come back, he can. He's not that far from graduating, but my gut tells me I think Gary wants to suspend him, and then I think he wants to bring him back this season. I think the administrators are saying, it's got to be for this season. And whether or not Casey decides to return, though, for his senior year, that's to be determined. He's good enough to be drafted. But, Bryan, you and I both know when a guy has a record like this, the NFL team is not going to select him in the first round. Probably not even. Ryan Mallett didn't even go to, the 4th or 5th round?
That's right.
And Ryan Mallett was a bigger-time pro prospect than Casey. And Ryan didn't have near the problems off the field that Casey did. So if, he cost himself money. And when I watched that team against Iowa State, all their youth got incredibly exposed. I don't know if they would have won the game. I think they probably would have won that game. But, now they're in a position. They got to go to Baylor. I can't imagine they're going to be the favorites. They're going to be home against Tech. And after that, every game they're going to play in, they're going to be the decisive underdog. They're so young and so green, and they're playing against a level of competition they're just not accustomed to seeing week in and week out. And if they don't have their all-conference starting quarterback, they're going to lose.
And who would have thought all that was going to happen before the season started?
I don't think anybody. I don't think Gary had any idea how it was going to go. But you saw their youth.
Sure. You
saw their youth on Saturday. They're just too green, and you knew it was coming. And then it manifested itself with some horrendous plays against an Iowa State team that's. I'm sorry. I mean, Iowa State's better. Paul Rose has done a nice job, but it's Iowa State. Like, you haven't even played the Texas teams yet.
Yeah.
So how's that going to go?
Or West Virginia.
Or West Virginia. So I think they'll get it right. I think it's going to take a while, and I would be really surprised if we saw Casey back this season. Mm-hmm. If we see Casey back this season, I think it speaks to the power that Gary Patterson has at that school. And
that may not be a good thing.
Maybe not, but I think everybody knows that when you make this step into this kind of level of football, you can't just say, okay, we're doing the right thing, and we're going to have 115% graduation rate, and all our kids are great, and blah, blah, blah. And, I was talking about that, this, Bryan. They had Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton was the greatest guy you'd ever want to meet when he was 19. He was an adult when he was 19. And but they're kind of guys that you play with who are, you want to go find the guy? Go to church. You'll find him. And you can win with those guys. And then the wild card kind of guys who are out partying and doing things that you don't want to be necessarily associated with, but you can win with those guys too.
Sure.
And that's the roll of the dice. And you just, after a while, it's like the Josh Hamilton thing. After a while, his teammates just get worn down by him. Like, dude, just go away. Let's go with this guy and see what we can do.
My wife says that about me all the time, Mac. Hey, buddy, it's good talking to you, man. Thanks very much for everything, and we'll be checking back in with you next Monday.
Okay, Bryan, anytime. Thank you.
Mac Engel from the Big Mac blog, Fort Worth Star Telegram, DFWOT on Bryan Houston Sports Radio Live on 99.3 Talk FM.